We're holding on the second half, Perek Chavchet in Sefer Mishlei, Pasuk Tetvav. Ari nohem b'dov shokek moshel rasha al amdal. A wicked man ruling over a poor people is like a roaring lion and a growling bear. Obviously, the simple meaning over here means that an individual who is a rasha, who is a wicked man, is not compassionate. All he has is his interest in mind. Then he will roar and he will act like a wild animal and take advantage of amdal, of the poor, of those who are less than him, who are not in the position to fight back. That's the simple meaning of the pasuk, but obviously there's more to this. You will see that in the Perek, throughout Mishlei, Shlomo Melech does not only give us good advice, he also describes to us various individuals, personalities, people in various positions, how human nature is really all about, how people have not changed. Whatever was then is true today too, and that we shouldn't be misled by someone who smiles at us. The smile doesn't mean anything. Someone that promises something to us, as soon as he will be in a position to do something, that he will do it. We shouldn't think that this is exactly what is going to happen, because after all, politicians and those who are in the high positions, what they first have in mind is themselves. It's never usually the well-being of the people. Unfortunately, we wish it was different. We dream of finally having some leader who will really serve the people, but that doesn't happen. It's rare. And it is sad, but that's what is described amongst other things in Sefer Mishlei, that we should understand human nature as best as possible. It's not what we see, and it's not what we think. There are evil people out there, and not everybody is kind. And you just have to be aware of the dangers. He points these out to us. Better to learn from the mistakes of others than to have to repeat the same mistakes ourselves. Another pirush, or another interpretation of this pasuk, Shlomo Melech is talking about Am Yisrael. Am Yisrael has unfortunately been subjected to the rule of many tyrants. The bears and the lions that he's talking about are the tyrants who have given us a hard time. So when do they give us a hard time? When it's Dal, when the Jewish people are poor in mitzvot. When we are low on mitzvot, that is when Hashem brings a tyrant, uses him as a tool to decree or to do other things that are meant to bring it to our attention that there's something wrong with what we're doing. So the only way a tyrant can have any power over Am Yisrael is because there's something that Am Yisrael is not doing right. In this case, al-amdal, meaning poor in mitzvot. Nagid chasar tevunot v'rav ma'ashakot sonei batza yarich yamim. He translates it here, a ruler who lacks understanding is a great oppressor, for he who hates unlawful gain will live long. Two completely different ideas, nevertheless they belong together. Talking about a ruler who lacks understanding. A ruler who lacks understanding, obviously, he will not be interested in doing what is right. He doesn't have the intelligence. And unfortunately, there have been people historically in the high positions that did not have too much understanding, too much intelligence. And in the end, what they do is they steal or they abuse, or as he calls it here, is a great oppressor. And then he adds another point. And those who do not oppress, those who are sonei betza, those who hate unlawful gain, will live long. In other words, if you ever have an individual in power who does not abuse people, who hates unlawful gain, he will live long. What does live long mean over here? It could either mean that he will have a long reign, he will be blessed with many, many years of being king or prime minister, because he has stayed away from that which is abuse or unlawful gain, as he calls it here. Or it could also mean that because he is stayed very far away from any unlawful gain, he will be zocheh to arichut yamim, not necessarily as a king or prime minister, but having a long life. Segula for arichut yamim. There are certain mitzvot, like kibud avayim, that prolong one's life. If he was meant to live a shorter life, it could be that they will add years to his life. So he's obviously talking to those individuals who are in power. Just remember, if you do the right thing, then your chances are that you will remain in power for a long time. A lot of prime ministers have been told this. A lot of kings have been told this. I'm told that the king of Morocco was told that if you are good towards the Jews, you will see your country will prosper. Just look what happened to Spain. As soon as the Jews left, Spain and Portugal, they were empires. Spain and Portugal, empires of the world. The Turkish king said, these guys are stupid. Yes, come to me, he said. He welcomed them all. He welcomed them all. He knew the value of the Jew. But obviously, you can't really say that the Spanish or Portuguese kings were dumb, even though they were in a sense, but it was a tool. They were a tool in the hands of Hashem to expel the Jews. When the time came for the Jews to be expelled, for whatever the reasons are, Hashem just, put it into the mind of the kings to do so. Things don't happen just overnight by themselves. He didn't just wake up one day and decided to decree that the Jews should either convert or leave. Obviously there's something going on deeper, and it's all min hashamayim. Nevertheless, the king is reminded, and so has been President Bush and any president in the United States, I think, or at least some of them were, I don't know if all, that if they will be good to the Jews, then they'll be reelected. Now, many, of course, take this literally. They actually go for the Jewish vote. But I think if you look at recent political history, you will notice that those who try to harm the Jews, whether in Israel as prime minister or as a government, or in the United States, they lost. They were hurt. Something happened to them. And I think the best example we may use this as an example is Clinton. I think it's incredible. It's just an incredible connection to see that every time he attempted even to do something, he really suffered the consequences. It became very obvious, not to everybody. Yeah, Hashem says if you play around with my people, lo tarich yamim, you will not have a lengthy tenure. Is that how you say it, tenure? In whatever position you're in, as king or as prime minister. That is perhaps one of the meanings of soneh batza yarich yamim, to hate unlawful gain. You want to be a righteous king, you want to be a good king, a good prime minister, you have a better chance of succeeding. Just do the right thing. Apparently there's a very big yetzer hara. And otherwise, how do you explain it? There's a very big yetzer hara when somebody gets into that position. Just like when somebody makes a lot of money, he has a big yetzer hara, it becomes harder for him to share his wealth. Everybody makes promises, but they can't deliver on their promises. Next pasuk, Adam ashuk b'dam nafesh, ad bor yanusa litmechu bo. It's a very interesting pasuk, the way he paraphrases it. Translation is, a man who is guilty of robbing one's lifeblood will flee to the pit, but no one will support him. So if you read the pasuk simply, literally, it's talking about murder. And it is. And I'll talk about that soon. But the commentaries say there are various types of murder. It doesn't just mean spilling someone's blood. Adam ashuk b'dam nafesh is one who perhaps caused others to sin. He has robbed the Jews of the shefa, according to the Kabbalah, of all the abundance, of all the blessing that is supposed to come down from Shamayim, as a result of misleading or causing them to go astray. It's one of the worst sins that one can commit. It's one thing if a Jew does something wrong on his own, but to mislead others, to make them go astray, it's one of the worst sins possible. And he says here, as a result of that, Ad bor yanusa litmechu bo, he will run to the pit. What's the pit? The grave. Until the very last day of his life. He will run and perhaps attempt to do teshuvah. Al itmechu bo, mishamayim, they won't help him. As it's brought down in various sefarim, that for certain sins, mishamayim, they don't help one. They don't wake him up. If he does that on his own, does teshuvah on his own, fine. They will always accept anybody no matter what he did, even the last day of his life. If he has the senses to do teshuvah, to correct his wrongs. Some people don't have the zechut, and therefore, if they die suddenly, some people are in bed the last 14 days of their life, the last 3 months of their life, perhaps even the last couple years of their life. And in some ways it's good, and in some ways it's bad. It's bad because could be painful for them and for the family. It's good because they have enough time to write wills, to give last instructions, to do teshuvah, to think about things, especially if their faculties are together, if they're a little bit, healthy. It's not so good if somebody dies all of a sudden, because then what? Then he didn't have enough time to do teshuvah. He didn't have enough time to write a will, to give last instructions. So the rabbis say one of the best types of death is about a week. A week. In other words, we don't know we have a week left, right? But it happens in a week, and his mind is still there. He's able to bring all his family members together. It's not sudden. Plus, of course, he's at an older age too. Now, if somebody died in his bed all of a sudden at the age of 105, I think that's okay. In other words, that's not bad. Alevai, everyone should have that kind of a beracha, even though it's sudden. But by the time since he's 105, most likely he's already written several wills by then, right? So even though it's sudden, he's had enough time to do teshuvah. 105 is okay, even if it's sudden. But other than that, it's best if a person be given time. If a person is not given the time, it may not be good because he hasn't had time to do teshuvah. A person falling into the water and drowning. All of a sudden, he's gasping for air. He doesn't have time to think of teshuvah. So that's what he says over here, that if according to this interpretation that we're talking about someone who's mahti tarabim, he leads others astray, misleads them, alit mechubo, he will not have any help in Hashemayim until the day he dies. Unless, of course, he returns on his own. But we're also talking about a murderer. And the message that he gives the murderer over here is, murder, of course, is a terrible sin. And he says, if you are adam ashuk b'dam nafesh, you've robbed somebody from his life, ad bor yanus, he will try to flee till the last day of his life. He will always be on the run, because somebody's going to come after him, and eventually he will also die in some way, not in a natural death. Why? Because midah keneged midah. Obviously, if he did that, he should not think. A murderer should never think he can get away with it. And that's the point he's trying to make over here. Other form of death or murder is malbim pnei chavero barabim, one who puts his friend to shame in public. That's also a terrible sin. Rabbis tell us, en lo chelek l'olam haba, unless he was somehow able to correct it. And that's also a difficult one to correct. You have to bring all the people who were present at the time that he was embarrassed before them. It's a very difficult situation. Holech tamim yivashea v'ne'ekash derachayim yipol be'achad. Many times throughout Sefer Mishlei, Shlomo HaMelech puts great emphasis on being an honest person, doing things truthfully, the right way, not in the corrupt way, not taking advantage of people. When it comes to mammon, when it comes to the yetzer of money, rabbis tell us that people have a very hard time. They have a weakness when it comes to money. We all have many yetzarim, many tchafim, many inclinations, temptations, desires and interests. But the rabbis tell us when it comes to money, that's the one that people have the hardest time with. As the rabbis put it, Ruban Begezet, the majority of the world, does something wrong with the money of other people. Something wrong. Either they take somebody's object without his permission. That's also a form of gezel. They don't ask. Either they don't pay the individual on time when they really can. That's also a form of gezel. They all have different names, and they're all asur. Right? You have to be very, very careful, because when it comes to money, people treat it sometimes even as an idol. They're capable of doing some terrible things just to get their hands on a little bit more money. So because of that, he brings up this point many times on how important it is to be honest, how success in life really depends on honesty, not on being crooked. People think that by being crooked, they can make it rich by doing something wrong, by cheating a company, by doing something illegal. Nobody will catch them. They will be able to make it. He says in the end you'll see that it never pays. Money that is taken in an illegal way is not blessed. It does not have any beracha. That's what he emphasizes over here in this pasuk. Kolech tamim yivashea. He who walks innocently will be saved. What does it mean, saved? No harm will befall him. He's also protected. Not only will he be liked and respected, but he's protected. A man who's honest in his business dealings, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu likes him. Therefore, he offers him his protection from those who may take advantage of him because of his innocence, or because he's so sincere and may be unaware, Hashem will protect him. In other words, he will not lose out just because he's honest. Whereas the other one, the one who is corrupt, but he who is perverse in his way will fall in one. What does it mean in one? In one of the things that he does, one of these days he's going to be caught. One of these days he will fall, he will make a mistake. One of these days people will figure it out. One of these days his accountant or his bookkeeper will not tell him what he did wrong. Somehow the accountant bookkeeper will be blinded, and it's all min hashamayim. Or he will be audited. Or somebody will cheat him in the same way that he cheated others. That's what he says over here, that one of these days, ne'ekash derachayim, he's twisted, he's corrupt, he's perverse. One of these days, yipol, he will fall. Therefore, it doesn't pay. Zelo mishtalem. But a lot of people don't think about it. At first, when they see the opportunity, they try to grab the opportunity. But it's wrong, it's corrupt, it's illegal. But it's money. And the yetzer for money is so strong that people are blinded. One who is sincere, Rabbi tells, yagia lishlimut, he will be able to reach completeness, because being yashar in business means that he will be yashar in other areas too in life. It means that he will do his best to perfect his midot, he will do his mitzvot in the proper way. He's an honest individual. Can you imagine the type of life an honest man should have at home with his wife? He's an honest man. And honesty carries a lot of other midot with it. It carries along other ideas too, other behaviors. It brings to shlemut. It's therefore something that one needs to work on from early on, from an early age, to train children to be honest, never to lie, never to cheat. The next pasuk, holech tamim yivashe'a. No, we covered that. Oved admato yizba lachem umeradef rekim yizba rish. He who tills his soil will be sated with bread, but he who pursues vain things will be sated with poverty. The simple meaning is, we're talking about an agricultural society. In those days there was no industry. Oved admato yizba lachem. If you have a field, it's a great business. A field, it's hard work. You have to wake up early in the morning. But imagine if you have fertile land, you have enough rain, or you have a good irrigation system, you produce your own food, and especially if you have cattle and all that, it's a great business. The rabbis talk about how good of a business it is to have animals, small feed animals, cows, sheep, goats, chickens, other birds. The farm life, it's a good life, but it's a hard life. So that's a simple meaning. You will always have what to eat. Perhaps the other idea of what he's trying to say is, whoever works hard, no matter what he does, but he works in an honest and legal way, yegia akapecha, in other words, earning it the hard way, with his own bare hands, he will see success. In other words, he will be satiated. He will have what to eat. He will prosper. But one who's meradef rekim, one who pursues vain things. What's vain things? There's a lot of promises in this country, whether it's in the newspaper or some ad or something in the mail. You want to be a millionaire? In 72 hours you can make it. Just buy this book, or come to this course and learn how to do it. First of all, they want to make the money for you coming to the course, paying for the book, and who knows what else they're going to sell you. It's all mazal. If in fact you actually made a lot of money, it's all his mazal. It's very difficult to teach the secret of how one succeeded in anything. I mean, there is a lot to learn, there's a lot to teach, and obviously it's all helpful. But how much he will make and how much success he will have does not depend on anything except the mazal. But here he's not talking about just anything. He's talking about the vain things, the vain promises, like junk bonds, and all these things that, you know what I mean, all these things that people just try them out, telemarketing, some product. He says, don't pursue these things. These are vain things. They don't hold any promise. One may get lucky. If one has mazal, he can sell matchsticks and become a millionaire. You know why? Because it just could be that when he made an investment in few tons of matchsticks. It just could be that the next day that's what somebody needed, exactly that, and he's willing to pay. If it's min hashamayim, it's meant to be. Anything can go. I think there's an expression in Yiddish. If something is bashert, then even a broom can turn into a rifle. It could shoot. Anything can happen. If it's bashert, if it's meant to be, if Hashem wants something to happen, it could happen from anything. Next pasuk. Ish emunot rav berachot. This is in some ways it's a continuation. Ish emunot rav berachot ve'atz le'ashir lo yinakeh. He who hastens to acquire wealth is a man with an evil eye. No, that's later on. A trustworthy man will have many blessings, but he who hastens to become rich will not go unpunished. Again, talking about an ish emunot, a person who is sincere, who is honest, he will make it, he will be blessed. But one who tries to rush to make it, lo yinakeh. What does lo yinakeh mean? He will not go unpunished. It will be almost impossible for him not to do something wrong, because he's rushing. He's rushing to make it fast, to make money fast, and it's almost impossible that he will not do something wrong. Either some avon, some sin, he will commit some sin, because that's what he has in his mind, is to become rich quickly. Whereas ish emunot rav berachot, the one who does everything in an honest way, he will be blessed. Rabbis tell us in this pasuk, ish emunot rav berachot, the words ish emunot rav, the last letters, ish is shin, emunot is taf, and rav is bet, right? Is Shabbat. The sofet tevot of the words ish emunot rav is Shabbat. Kol ha-me'aneg or kol ha-mechabed ta Shabbat, it's a segula for ashirut. You want a segula, if you're having a hard time with parnasah, show greater kavod for the Shabbat, and that can also help. That's also merumaz in this pasuk. Rabbis also tell us, if whoever wants to have rav berachot, many blessings in his business, he wants to prosper, he wants to do well, yita eder benechasav, let him plant a maple tree in his business. A maple, just like a maple is a straight tree, in the same way he should be straight. If he does everything straight, if he's honest, then he will succeed. In other words, the rabbis are telling us, just be honest, be straight. I've heard it too many, what? No, just like a maple is straight, what they meant is plant a maple tree. In other words, be like the maple tree. Be straight. Be straight. That's what they meant. Yeah. And the idea, of course, is that some people think that in order to make it, you have to cheat, you have to lie, you can't be truthful. Right? That's not true, he says over here. Afuch, in the contrary, just ish emunot rav berachot, just one who conducts himself properly, he's honest, he will be blessed, not one who tries to make it fast. Because it's impossible for him to make it quickly, to become rich quickly without doing something wrong. Lo yinakeh. Something that he will do will be wrong, not right. Next pasuk, Haker panim lo tov ve'al pat lechem yifsha gaver. To be partial is not good, but for a piece of bread a man will sin. Hakarat panim, the Torah warns us, lo takir panim. A judge has to be very careful not to show favoritism, not to smile to one individual and not to other, but to be fair. So here he's talking mostly to judges, to be careful. Lo lakir panim, hakir panim lo tov. Any akarat panim, any little bit of favoritism is a me'avet et adin, alul le'avet. In other words, it may corrupt the justice. The outcome will not come out right. Why? Because if the other individual notices that the judge is showing some sort of favoritism to him, he may have a hard time explaining himself. The rabbis say his mouth may be shut. He may not be able to open up his mouth. He may just be in shock because of the favoritism shown to the other individual. He may just figure he has no chance, and he won't be able to express himself and defend himself or claim whatever it is that he's claiming. So the judges are told, be careful, even though you might be fair in your judging, but you're going to give the other individuals a hard time by showing favoritism. An example, let's say the judge knows one of them. Oh, how are you? How's business doing? Oh, the judge knows him. The judge has some knowledge of his business. And even though he didn't do really anything, but it's called lakir panim. Don't ask him these questions. Ask him later these questions. Don't bring it up right now. See, Mishlei is not only for ordinary people, it's for judges too. As after all, the Torah says, Ashochad yaveh neh chachamim. Bribes don't only affect average human beings. It can even affect the Chachamim and the Tzaddikim, the greatest of all. A bribe is a bribe. And one can easily become biased if he received something, a favor, money or whatever. So he warns the judges to be careful with it. Valpat lechem yifsha gaver. That's a very interesting point here. He says, for a piece of bread, a man will sin. For a piece of bread, in other words, even if the gain is only a few dollars, there are people out there who may be willing to do something wrong just for a few pennies more. It's incredible, but that's what Shlomo Melech is telling us. Unfortunately, alpat lechem, for a piece of bread, yifsha gaver. One may come to do something that is wrong. In this statement really is also an admonition. For a piece of bread, for a few, as we say in Yiddish, a few bupkes, a few pennies, is that you're going to go out of your way to cheat and to lie and to swear chas v'shalom for a few more pennies? So you're going to make a few more dollars? But that's what he says. Yes, some people, alpat lechem, just for a piece of bread, will be willing to commit a sin. So be careful with that. It's not worth it. Shema. That leads us to the next pasuk. There are various pasukim here that are interrelated, and the common theme between them is that it doesn't pay. It simply, not only is it wrong, it simply does not pay. As in Hebrew we have a saying, Sof ganav litliyah. The end of a thief is that he will be caught, he will be hanged. The end of all those who cheat others, who take their money, who abuse others, is no good. They can't get away with it forever. It appears to them that everything is going well, but it's misleading. And that's why he tells us in the next pasuk, Nivhal lahon ish ra'ayin v'lo yida ki chesed yevuenu. He who hastens to acquire wealth is a man with an evil eye, and he does not know that want will come upon him. What does that mean? Nivhal lahon ish ra'ayin. Because he's so in a hurry to make money, when he does make money, ish ra'ayin, he will become a man with an evil eye. Here, an evil eye means stingy or greedy. The more money you have, the more difficult it will be to give tzedakah. So nivhal lahon, one of the consequences of having the hon, of having the wealth, is ra'ayin, that at one time he used to give tzedakah when he was poor. But now that he has made it, now that he has a big company and many employees, and you think that he has so much money and he can do so much. No, he's ra'ayin, he's greedy. He has an evil eye. V'lo yeda ki cheser yevuenu. He does not realize that by holding himself back from giving tzedakah because he wants to become richer. I mean, after all, why is a person stingy? Because he wants to hold on to it himself. He doesn't want to part with it. He wants to have more and more and more. He doesn't realize that by holding on to it, ki cheser yevuenu, that want will come upon him. In other words, that at some point it will be taken away from him. It won't stay with him. Anybody who holds himself back from giving tzedakah, then Hashem will have to take it from him in some other way. And it's a shame, because that same money you could have given it to tzedakah and had a mitzvah. One of the rabbis in the Gemara had a dream that his nephews, I think it was, some relatives of his, were going to be audited by the government, and they were going to be caught, and they were going to take, the government was going to take $1,000, let's say, from them. So he rushed over to them, and he didn't tell them anything. He just says, I want to be mezakeyu with a mitzvah. I want you to have a mitzvah. There's a special mitzvah that just came up. So he was able to get from them 700. Family members were audited, and how much did they take, the government, from them? 300. So Rabbi Yochanan says, you see, when I came to you a couple weeks ago for tzedakah, was to save your $700 and have it go for a good cause. Because I had a dream that 1,000 was going to be taken from you by the government. And so they told him, well, why didn't you tell us to give you 1,000 then? Why did you just make us give you 700? He says, I couldn't tell you to give 1,000 because I wanted you to do it on your own too. That you should be able to have your own zechut. So I took from you as much as I could. But you see from this, since you on your own did not give the chaval, you lost the opportunity to give $300 more to tzedakah. The money was taken away anyway. And here, had it been given for tzedakah, you would have at least had a tremendous zechut. People don't realize that. One way or another, the money will be taken away. Might as well give it to tzedakah and have a big mitzvah for it too. Anyway, but that's what happens when somebody nivhal lahon, his attitude is to make it rich. Yishra ayn, he will have an evil eye. He will not be giving. He will not want to give tzedakah, and he doesn't realize that even though he's holding on to all the money and thinks he's becoming rich as a result, it's really heser yevueno. Eventually, it will be taken away from him. Next pasuk, mochiach adam acharai chen yimtza mimachalik lashon. He who admonishes man after me will find more favor than he who speaks with flattery. So who is he talking about? He who admonishes man after me. So some say he's talking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He who admonishes tells people, this is not right, this is what you should be doing, go after me, or do as I do. Either he's talking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, was to give musar to people, to admonish them, to go after Hashem, or he's talking about, after these words. He who admonishes people to go after these words. Either one. Chen yimtza, he will find favor. He will find more favor mimachalik lashon than one who speaks with flattery. There's a saying which pretty much fits into this pasuk, that chaver mochiach adif al meshaveach. It's better to have a friend that admonishes you, that tells you your faults, than one who just flatters and praises you a whole day long. Because as long as the criticism, as long as the admonition is true and it's for one's benefit, then he's doing you a big favor. He's correcting you. And if it's a very true friend, then you know for sure that admonition comes from the heart, that he means your well-being, and you might as well listen. Rabbi tells, Kol ha-mochiach l'shem shamayim zochel liyot b'mchitzat Hashem. Whoever admonishes another individual, l'shem shamayim, he really wants to help him, then just for that alone, he will have the zechut to be in the mechitza with the Shekhinah. This, of course, brings up the concept of mezakeh rabim, which the Zohar speaks a lot about. Mezakeh rabim, one who's mezakeh other people to do mitzvot, one who mezakeh means he helps them by talking to them, by convincing them to give tzedakah or to do a mitzvah. There's no greater mitzvah than that. Mezakeh hayava, those who are mezakeh, those who are wicked, those who are sinful, to bring them back with tshuva, that is one of the greatest positions that one can ever have. More than a rabbi, more than a rosh yeshiva. He's machzir b'tshuva. This particular position, by the way, did not exist a couple hundred years ago. Did you have a couple hundred years ago a position called machzir b'tshuva? Most people were observant somewhat. This position of bringing back b'tshuva people is only today. You have individuals who excel in that area, who are good, and it's a tremendous mitzvah. That is the greatest mitzvah perhaps of this generation. The mitzvah is immensely. Whoever can help others to do teshuvah, to bring them to a shiur, to give them a cassette, and as a result of a few words that were said, his whole family changes, his whole life changes. You can earn your share of the world to come just by bringing back one Jew b'teshuvah. You know what that is? Just one. Even if a person was not the greatest person, but he did that, he saved a Jew's life, a spiritual Jew, the spiritual life. It's a tremendous achievement. One should make an effort in that. And that's what he says over here, that admonition, therefore, is more welcome than flattery, because admonition can go a long way, especially if it's to bring him back with tshuva. Next pasuk, Gozel aviv ve'imo ve'omer en pasha chaver hu leish mashchit. He who robs his father or his mother and says this is not a sin is the companion of a destroyer. Some say he's talking about just the opposite of what we just said. Machti arabim. Gozel aviv ve'imo. He's robbing. He's robbing from them, robbing from the children of Hashem, the shefa, as we mentioned earlier. He's causing a distance between them and Hashem. He's machtit arabim. That is one of the interpretations of what the word gozel aviv ve'imo means. But the simple meaning of gozel aviv ve'imo is that he actually robs his parents. Ve'omer en pasha, there's no sin. He's able to justify, I'm going to eventually inherit them anyway, so what do they care? In other words, what he's trying to say is that when it comes to stealing, people can easily find an excuse to justify taking, even from their own parents. And that is a tremendous avon. But some people might do that and say, en pasha, there's nothing wrong with it. So he says, chaver hu leish mashchit. He who does that is a companion of a destroyer. In other words, of the worst kinds of people, of the most evil people. Taking from one's own parent, Imagine not being respectful of one's parent. It's a tremendous sin. Not being respectful, cursing a father or mother, chas v'shalom, yelling at them. It is a tremendous avon. But that's what some people do. They don't realize that through their actions, not only are they causing so much pain to the father or mother, but they're also committing a tremendous offense, something which is very difficult to repair. Stealing from them. I would even interpret this pasuk as stealing from them the nachat, the happiness that they could otherwise have. Don't you want to give your parents some nachat, some happiness, by being nice to them? After all, they've been so nice and dedicated to you. They've brought you up. They spend so much time and effort on you. Where is the akarat tov? Where is the thank you and the gratitude for what they did? Even though they may not have always been perfect. After all, no one is perfect. But unfortunately, some people's nature is so bad, is so negative, that they cannot find the time to just go over and be with them and take care of them and ask them if they need any help. They just lack the sensitivity and the intelligence. And the common sense. All this is common sense. But people come up with all sorts of excuses. That's what he says. Gozel aviv imo, they rob from them. Domer en pasha, there's nothing wrong with it. Chaver hu leish mashchiti. He's a friend of a destroyer, of the worst kind of people. Next pasuk. Rechav nefesh yigarem madon uvoteach al Adonai yedushan. A greedy man stirs up quarrels, but he who puts his trust in Hashem will be greatly gratified. Here we're talking about two kinds of individuals. One who is rechav nefesh, he has many desires, he wants many things. As a result of his continuous wanting and desiring things, it leads him to madon, to arguing and fighting and getting into trouble with a lot of people, because he always wants to have certain things, and if he doesn't have it, then that's, yigarem madon. That may lead him to have many problems with friends, family members, with everybody, because he's a rechav nefesh. He desires certain things. A person who desires always feels that he's lacking. He's never happy. As a result of not being happy, then you could imagine how he is with people. He's negative, he's jealous, he argues. They're all from ta'ava. And that is where the rabbis warn us. Kinat ta'ava ve'kavod motzim et ha'adam min ha'olam. They can destroy, a person can self-destroy himself just from being overjealous and ta'avot, the desires, the pursuit of the kavod. And these are silly things. Either you're going to receive it in Shamayim or not. So be happy, be content with whatever you have. Be mistapek b'mo'at. Be content with the little bit you have. Boteach al Hashem yedushan. Whoever has his trust in Hashem, he will always be satisfied. He will be gratified. Be happy. Because he puts his trust in Hashem. A lot of people don't have that trust, that level of trust in Hashem. They really think that somebody harmed them, took something away from them, and therefore they're miserable. If it's coming to you, nobody can take it away from you. Anwar Sadat, when he made peace with Israel, there was one thing I liked that he said. They asked him, "Sir, aren't you afraid that you're going to get killed?" So he says, "Nobody will take away one day from what is coming to me to live. Whatever is meant for me to live, however number of days God decided I will live, nobody can take away one day from that." Incredible statement. Well, even though I don't agree with everything he did or said, but at least that's a very correct thing to say. Even though obviously a person goes into a dangerous situation as a soldier, he may die before his time, nevertheless it's still min hashamayim. Min hashamayim, they always make the decision whether it's going to happen or not. Should we protect him or not? It's always going to be in the hands of Hashem. Nobody can interfere with Hashem's plan. So here's an individual who thinks that yes, somebody interfered with his life, took away some of his money. That's impossible. Because if it's coming to you, then you will get it one way or another. If it's not coming to you, then why be miserable? Why be bitter about it? Just because he was not right? Just because he was not honest? So he will have to pay for it. Bashamayim. Hashem has cheshbon, but why should you be miserable about it? A person who is miserable, who's unhappy, who's jealous, has a complete lack of bitachon, you should know. He may be a believer in Hashem. To be ma'amin in Hashem is one thing. To have bitachon is a completely whole different idea. And Bezat Hashem, we will be spending a lot of time, Bezat Hashem, in the near future, about bitachon. A tremendous ma'ala of putting one's complete trust in Hashem. Alright, we just have a couple more pesukim. Yeah.
Why do sometimes the store owner will go to a Rav, they ask the question, the guy owns a hardware store, Jew, another Jew wants to open a hardware store right across the street. He asks the Rav, why ask? If you have bitachon, you're not going to get any more or less. What's the shaila? There's no shaila.
No, sometimes there is a shaila. If it's a very small neighborhood and there's only room for one, when it's obvious, then there is halachot in the Shulchan Aruch that are written for those individuals who will have a hard time initially with it because of the circumstances. So there has to be a Shulchan Aruch that will dictate you cannot open up a second store right across the street to compete if there's only room for one, for example.
You said that bitachon should...
You're right, but you cannot demand bitachon from the individual, especially when the circumstances are so tight that it's the Chafetz Chaim used to close his shop the few years that he had a shop. A couple hours a day he left it open. I think noon he closed it. They asked him, why did he close it? He says, I don't want everybody coming just to me. I want everybody else to make a living too. That was very nice of him. He didn't have to do it. And even if he would not have done it, eventually they would have received their parnasah from other sources, but they would not have known that. They would feel bad. Chafetz Chaim is taking away all our parnasah. Everybody's going to him. Everybody likes him. But you're right. If they would have bitachon, they wouldn't even be concerned about it. But most people are not on that level, unfortunately. Okay, just have a few more pesukim here. Boteach belibo uchsil. Boteach belibo uchsil ve'olech bechokma hu yimalet. He who trusts his heart, who trusts his own heart is a fool, but he who goes with wisdom will escape. He who trusts in himself, does not seek the advice of others, is really a fool. It's always good to seek the advice of others before you make a major decision in your life. You have nothing to lose. Boteach belibo, you just trust yourself. That's a foolish attitude. Ve'olech bechokma hu yimalet. One who goes with wisdom, in other words, he thinks things over, seeks the advice of others. Hu yimalet, he will escape. In other words, he will succeed in doing whatever it is that he was going to do and come out with the right advice, having sought the advice and not just relied on his own mind. Commentaries explain see how big of a fool this man is who trusts in himself. What does it mean to trust in yourself? A person really thinks sometimes that if he does certain things, he will succeed. There's a formula for success. He doesn't realize that everything's min hashamayim. Rabot machshavot belev ish, we said every day, Batzat Hashem itakum. People have all sorts of thoughts and ideas, and in the end it's what Hashem wants anyway that's going to come out. But what does a fool think? No, if I do this and if I do that, this is what's going to happen. It's foolish because everything is min hashamayim, and sometimes you can see that it's obvious everything is min hashamayim. Noten larash en machsor u'malim einav rav meirot. This is a very important pasuk for those who fear giving tzedakah. If they give tzedakah, they will become poor. He who gives to a poor man will suffer no want, but he who hides his eyes will have many curses. The Rambam says, let me see if I can find his exact language here. The Rambam says, לעולם אין אדם מעני מהצדקה ואין דבר רע או היזק נגלל בשביל הצדקה שנאמר והיה מעשה הצדקה שלום. Never will a person become poor because of giving tzedakah. Never will any harm occur to one who was kind and good to others. It's impossible. I mean, obviously you have to be careful not to give all your money away for tzedakah. There are halachot and how much you can give. But from just giving tzedakah, normal amount of tzedakah or maaser, no harm will happen. On the contrary, the money will be preserved. As we've explained in the past, Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. What's the yishmerecha? Hashem will bless you. What do you need that Hashem will protect you? That nobody should take away your money. Imagine making all this money and now somebody comes and takes it away from you. Chavar. Yivarechecha Hashem with money. V'yishmerecha, He will protect you, He will preserve that money. That's greater than wealth. A person can make millions of dollars, but if he cannot hold on to it, what is it worth? The true blessing is yishmerecha, that whatever amount you make is preserved. You always have what you need. That's the biggest blessing. No harm will happen to one who gives tzedakah, who's kind to others. On the contrary, he says, Uma'alim einav rav meirot. But he who hides his eyes will have many curses. Hides his eyes means that he turns his eyes away, he's not compassionate, he has an opportunity to help someone, he has the money, and he says, I don't have time, or I don't have the money. Not only is it a lie, but he's actually ma'alim ayn. He's turning his eyes away for an opportunity to do a big mitzvah. In Bashamayim, what are they saying?
he turns his eyes from the poor man, we will turn our eyes from him too. When he needs help, we will not be there for him. It's a tremendous avon. He says here, Rav Me'erot, many curses will befall him. The last pasuk of the perek, V'kum rasha'im yisater adam uve'ovdam yirbu tzadikim. When the wicked rise up, people hide, but when they perish, the righteous increase. It's a difficult pasuk to understand. What does it mean that when the wicked rise up, people hide, and when they go away, the righteous increase? The simple meaning is, or I shouldn't say the simple, but one of the interpretations that is given over here, V'kum rasha'im yisater adam, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings to power an evil man, or when some evil is supposed to happen, he may take away from the world a tzaddik before his time. Ki mipnei hara'ah ne'esaf tzaddik, as the other pasuk says. Because of the ra'ah that is supposed to happen now to a country, Hashem will remove him from this world early, a few years before his time, in order that that tzaddik should not see and not experience all that. You know, for example, the Holocaust. Terrible, terrible tragedy. I'm sure, I have no doubt in the world, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took away some tzaddikim that were meant to live a few more years, just so that they should not be around the time of Hitler and the war. It took them a year before. They passed away a few months before, just so they should not be around. The famous example that we know is Avraham Avinu passing away 5 years earlier, at the 175 and not 180, so he should not see Esav, his grandson, Yotzeh letarbut ra'ah, becoming an evil man. Avraham Avinu did not deserve to see a grandchild becoming the way Esav became. He did not deserve, he was too big of a tzaddik to see that. You know the ogmat nefesh, the aggravation that this would cause a man. Hashem knows these things, of course, well ahead, and he says, this tzaddik does not deserve. So how do I deal with it? I take him away a few years before, so he should not see. So that's one of the ideas over here expressed, that V'kum rasha'im yisater adam. Kadosh Baruch Hu hides the adam, or removes him, so that they should not see what is going on. Yes? Who know? But it's not the same. Even though after they've passed away they know and they feel bad, it's not the same when they're alive. They have a better understanding of things too. That's true. You're right. It's a whole different. But you're right. They are aware to an extent of certain things, and they feel the pain or the happiness, depending on what is going on. But it's different than when they are actually alive and experiencing on their own flesh, and feeling that they have no control and no solace and nobody to comfort them. Whereas upstairs, Hashem lets them know already, don't worry, everything is okay. Mashiach is coming, this is part of the whole process. Like you said, they have a better understanding. So one interpretation is, so when the Reshaim are in power, but when they disappear, that is when the Tzaddikim prosper. That is when they increase. In other words, at a time when the Rasha is in power, you don't see the righteous, because all you see is the evil. The second interpretation, however, is as follows. Perhaps we can relate it to what's going on in Israel today. V'kum risha'im yisater adam. When the Rishaim, when the wicked are in power, you don't get a chance to see the righteous, because even the righteous are entangled, unfortunately, many times, with these wicked people. You don't see the righteous standing up for their rights as they should, because they are in the government. They are part of the government, and that is a big problem. Should they be or not in the government? The Chazon Ish was asked, why should we go to the elections? Why should we support something that includes wicked people? Isn't that supporting the wicked? He says, you call that support? I call this war. The only way to fight the wicked is by being with them in the government. That you call that support? I call this war, doing battle with them. That's the best way to do battle with them. So we have to get involved. However, what happens, unfortunately, is when they are in power, yisater adam. All those who are good and righteous disappear from the sin. You don't hear them too much. However, ve'ovdam yirbu tzadikim. When the wicked disappear, that is when the tzadikim are given a chance to prosper. And of course, that is what we're waiting for. And that is what we're praying for. In other words, that all the evil should disappear, so that the Malchut of HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be restored to its original glory. Beit HaMikdash will be rebuilt, and we will have Ashiva Shofetenu Kevarishona, we will have our judges back, and righteousness, of course, will become more and more evident. People will, of course, realize what is right and what is wrong. Today, it's very confusing. It's very vague. What is right and what is wrong? There's so many parties. So we're waiting for this moment because this will give us a lot more clarity. The Yetzer Hara will be removed. That is why we've always been looking forward to Mashiach. It's not so much because of all the benefits that Am Yisrael will receive, but it's because the world will be restored to its original blueprint that it was supposed to be before Chet Adam HaRishon. That no longer will the human being be serving himself or looking for himself. What is there for me to gain here? But all he will be thinking about is to do the will of Hashem. That B'ezrat Hashem will hopefully be our zechut to experience very soon.